All right. Hi, and welcome to TMC Connect. My name is Tony Bramley, and I'm the Director of Business Development here at the Mortgage Collaborative. We have a fantastic session for you today. I'm not going to spoil Allie's thunder. I'm going to let her do all of the intros. But I wanted to just tell you that you have all come in on mute today, but we do want this to be engaging. So if you've got any questions or comments, please drop them in the Q&A or the chat, and Allie will be reading those out to the panelists as they go through their questions. And then also wanted to let you know there'll be a follow-up email tomorrow that will have a link to this video and contact information for all the folks on the line. So thank you once again for being here, and I am going to turn it over to Allie.
All right, thank you, Tony. So let me just get our screen ready here. All right. Well, first of all, on behalf of Certified Credit and our entire team, including the two lovely gentlemen I have here today from Certified and our special guest, I would like to thank you for joining us for our conversation about real strategies for reducing origination costs. So we all know that recently there have been price increases. There have been a lot of changes happening inside the mortgage industry. And so today we're going to be talking about some of those strategies that we're applying with our customers, as well as hearing what they're doing at VIP Mortgage with Michael Metz. So here we are. Our panelists today are Paul Robinson, the Vice President of Sales here at Certified Credit. How are you doing, Paul?
Good, thanks, Allie.
Thank you. We also have Jeff Woltemath, Strategic Account Executive at Certified Credit. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Allie. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and of course, we have our special guest, Michael Metz, Operations Manager at VIP Mortgage. Hey, Michael.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
As mentioned, these gentlemen are going to be talking about these real strategies for reducing origination costs. As you may or may not know, you probably all do, being in the industry, on average, it costs between $10,000 and $11,000 to originate a mortgage right now. And that is only going up with the recent price increases and things that are happening from the bureau standpoint that we're seeing in credit, the increases with VOEs, as well as the risk of fallout. And so we're just going to start our conversation with these gentlemen talking about how can you reduce those origination costs while also benefiting your workflow, processes, and operation. So we're going to start off, as we all are aware, the price increases from FICO took effect January 1st of this year. While these price increases are unavoidable, there are many steps and strategies that you guys can take to reduce your mortgage origination costs. So let's start with the basis. Jeff, where's the best place to start if you wanted to minimize those origination expenses associated with credit?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's going to depend a lot on how the lender goes about doing their business. I mean, we offer solutions and Miguel, I guess you're cracking me up with the Miguel over there. We offer a vast amount of solutions, but the main thing is we kind of talk through the workflows that people have, and what type of shop they are. If it's a lot of, consumer direct type things, some of the solutions that we like to talk about is bundle as much as you can, and then look at kind of a back end closed loan to reduce that upfront expense as much as possible. And with that, definitely, I can say that we're seeing more and more of our clients looking to implement soft pull solutions. Now that I've been doing this for 20 some years, and soft pulls used to be not that feasible really for loan decisioning, but nowadays you can really see that, it's true mortgage FICO scores that you're delivering, that we're delivering, and you can get all three repositories. Back in the day, there was only one bureau that you could get on those. So in addition to those couple of things, then I also I try to cut the fat for my clients right off the bat with cascading, looking at ways to eliminate that upfront expense as much as possible for those loans that simply aren't going anywhere. So in our world, it's called Smart Select, but I think a lot of our clients and people look at it as simply a cascading credit report.
Yeah, and I definitely want to know, we're talking about these bundles. So what do these bundles kind of look like? And I think, Michael, you guys have a bundle at VIP Mortgage. So I know you guys are using the closed loan bundles. So why did you guys select this bundle? How is it helping VIP Mortgage? And how do you think that it would help other lenders?
Good questions. So we do the closed loan bundle. We also do we bundle pretty much everything we can through it. So in our case, it helps for the simplicity of just having one bundled credit report pricing. And I think a lot do follow that, where all the supplements, basically everything other than the rescore that we could include, we did in that bundle, which really helps in the simplicity of setting up the file, having the fees, not having to worry about it. And then we did work with Paul to switch to that closed loan pricing. Probably, was that 2-3 years ago, Paul?
Yeah, it was quite a while ago. Well ahead of the game, that's for sure.
Well, glad we can get ahead on that one. I guess with COVID, my sense of timing messes up, so it's probably been more like 3-4 years ago by this point. We did that as a strategy just so that, especially right now, when those pre-quals are taking forever and they're taking longer to convert, it was a strategy for us to be able to help head off some of those savings, as far as being able to minimize the cost on the pre-quals while still being able to be competitive on the closed loan. So that's helped us a lot. The average consumer is not so price sensitive on that credit report fee, especially when you compare that to, say, the title services fees, which are regularly going to be in your 4 digits. So the smaller comparatively for the credit reports, it's been able to help us in staying competitive while still helping manage to our branch margins and costs.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I guess the question here, you're talking about what you guys are doing. Paul, Jeff, what other types of bundles are you seeing lenders move to? And what are some of the advantages of those other bundles?
Right. So, we love to give our customers options out there. While, VIP is currently on the closed loan bundle, which, drastically reduces that upfront cost of a credit report to help with the fallout. I mean, that's the main selling point to that type of bundle. Let's reduce the leaky bucket and collect in the end if it goes somewhere there. But there's also, traditionally, there's the upfront bundle. I think that's going to be really less prevalent moving forward because you're bundling so many products up front and you don't know if that loan's going anywhere there. So you're seeing folks shy away from that. That used to be the big one, for years, because you could, know exactly what you're going to collect, what you're grouping in there, with the exception of, as Mike said, rapid rescores that you can't collect. But that actually really front loads your credit report fee. And that's where people are straying away from now. There's also what we call a step up bundle. It's kind of, meeting halfway in between the front end and the closed loan, where it steps up the fee at a milestone or a product throughout the process. Take, for instance, you pull the credit, everything looks good. You have that small upfront fee. If you analyze it looks good and you think you're going to run AUS on it, once you run AUS, we can step that bundle up as well to a higher fee. And then it also can include other services like supplements, multiple reissues, UDNs, different options, the refresh report, all depending on what you use. But I would say, kind of moving forward, those are probably the top 2 you're going to see now, are the step ups and that closed loan bundle as well.
And I'll add to that, Paul, and my experience with several of my clients. And let's talk about the elephant in the room. Allie, you mentioned it briefly about the price increase that FICO and the bureaus have done to Michael and the rest of everybody on this call. Just insane. I mean, we've never seen anything like that before. So to Paul's point, that front end bundle is something that we do believe will be eventually going away. And in my experience, a lot of my clients, they're looking at, okay, so that went into effect January 1st. They're going to give it a good quarter at least to see at the end of the day what it would have been had we put them on a step up or a closed loan bundle. So those are types of things that we're trying to be proactive with our existing client base, is because we have access to that data and we can simply go in and look and say, had you been on a program similar to VIP or some of my clients, this is where you would have saved, and then you implement the Smart Select credit report on that, another 10% there. So we're all about partnering and trying to help uncover ways to reduce the expense, because we know it's really gotten out of hand. So
Excellent points.
Yeah, and I definitely think about, you guys mentioned in there a lot about the soft pulls. And something that when we all got together before we discussed was the impact soft pulls can have, especially when it comes to triggers. So Paul, triggers are a huge topic. I know, you and Michael have gone on about it a little bit. And so I'd like to know from your perspective, and also Michael, from your perspective, how are some of these changes helping avoid those trigger leads?
Sure. Well, just to start with everybody on this call, Certified Credit does not sell trigger leads.
thank you, Paul. Thank you.
I'm gonna put that out there. Okay.
It's not us.
It's not us. It's not us. So yeah, soft pulls are a great way to get around the triggers initially. If you're pulling that soft pull pre-qual, as Jeff mentioned earlier, it's giving you the mortgage FICO score you're going to get with a hard inquiry. Gives you a little bit of time to go ahead and set up that file. Then you can consultate your borrower to go out and opt out in the meantime. www.optoutprescreen.com gives them the option to opt out of solicitations for 5 years. You can mail in a request to them to actually get a lifetime removal off that list as well. But what that'll do is, ultimately when the time comes that you do pull that hard inquiry tri-merge, your borrowers aren't going to end up on that trigger lead list as well. I'll also recommend, pushing them over to the do not call list as well. And, they'll be happy in the end with not getting 50 solicitations a day for mortgages, but all their junk mail will stop as well with it. But, again, we've taken soft pulls to another level because the GSEs now have programs out there to run initial findings for soft pulls as well. Freddie Mac in particular, we have quite a few current customers into their pilot program, or currently in the process of getting set up for it. As Michael is well aware of, they're going through that as well. And so that gives you a chance to get that initial finding, see where you're going with it. It is going to require a hard inquiry tri-merge at some point. But again, you have that time to go ahead and get your borrower opt out, or if they're not going to opt out, at least consultate them. They're getting the best deal with where they're at there, but let them know if you don't opt out, you're going to get a ton of phone calls. But again, it's not the mortgage company selling leads. It's not the credit provider there. The bureaus make a ton of money off that program. I personally think that everybody should automatically be opted out with the option to opt in if they would like to get solicited there.
Amen.
Right. But I don't think anybody at the bureaus would listen to me on that one. So
one thing Paul taught our group related to this topic is for years in Encompass, every time we went to pull credit, we had all of our people trained to manually take out the client's email address and phone number before we pulled credit, because we thought that doing that provided the bureaus and the people who buy those credit trigger leads with their updated contact information. And of course, we didn't want them to have it. Paul taught us that has been a wasted effort for all these years, because he's like, we don't even use that field. We don't even get that information or send that information. They have their own bureaus where they've got their own information, and that's what they're using and selling. So if anyone else on this is also doing that, you can tell your people that they can finally relax and not have to copy and paste those emails and phone numbers into a notepad every single time they pull credit. So,
Great point.
Yes, so you guys are diving into some of these like tips and tricks. So beyond the credit world, what are some examples of how lenders are using these strategies, Paul, and using cost saving strategies in their daily operations?
Well, yeah, I mean, kind of as we're talking, soft pulls are cheap there, whether you're using it for the GSE programs or just getting a good idea of somebody's credit to get them out of ending up on a trigger list, there's still a fraction of the cost of a hard inquiry tri-merge, because even though it's delivering the FICO credit score, it didn't get impacted by the 400% increase. We don't know why. I'm not going to call and ask the bureaus why and put that on their radar. there, but and for now, until the bureaus catch on, they don't end up on a trigger list with soft pulls. And so I think that's going to help streamline, from a cost saving standpoint right away in strategies. But it also is a change to process. So as Mike knows from an operations manager, getting the buy-in, because at one point you could either be doing it as a cost savings, or you could be doing it as getting around triggers. If you're doing it for a cost savings and you're pulling a soft inquiry credit report, whether it's a 1, 2, or 3 bureaus, and then turning around and pulling a tri-merge on every one of them anyway, there's no cost savings there. So that takes the lender and their ops team to implement process procedures that work best for what they're trying to accomplish with a soft pull.
It's worth noting for us, at least, going through with Freddie Mac. So Paul mentioned that you can set up with Freddie. We just went through that experience to be able to run LP with the soft pull, which is huge for us. And when you go through that process, they'll actually, as part of the meeting, say, yes, we can set this up, but you need to establish, do you want to do it with 1, 2, or 3 bureaus? You can't just kind of change it up every pull. It's always got to be the same. So for us, we went with 1 pull, and that is both for one, as Paul mentioned, the cost savings, the triggers are a huge reason, but a big reason is the cost savings on those soft pulls. So then it makes sense to have it set up with Freddie to just run off the 1, but then 2, and this is something that Jody, who I see has joined up, also mentioned earlier, is the tricky part that you cannot close these loans with the soft pull. You have to re-pull it with a hard run later. And there is no warning message on LP. It is on Fannie. So for us, since we never close on a 1 bureau unless something's goofy or something related to the client, we found it easier to have a second kind of, okay, let's make sure to validate where they're only pulling 1 bureau on the soft pull. That way, when it gets into the file, into processing, they see only 1 bureau. Oops, you didn't re-pull with hard. Go through and rerun that. One more fail safe.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, and talking about, more of those operation side things, we also know that there were price increases that happened in our verification space. So with the work number, Experian Verify. So what are some of these solutions that you're seeing customers take on to minimize those costs while also helping make their processes more efficient?
Sure. Well, when it comes to the VOE space, folks, seem to have a little more bandwidth in house right now to reach out and start doing manuals themselves a little bit more. I always like to put out there that, we do those, but we understand if you're keeping those in house and keeping folks busy with those, because ultimately it's a lot cheaper to do it in house than outsourcing it to your credit vendor or a third party servicer. Yet, certified credit does get to them exceedingly fast within an hour or so. We kind of compare ourselves mostly in the space to the work number. We're much more efficient and faster than them, but also, cascading, looking at other VOE vendors than you have in the past. Traditionally the work number owned the space there. Well, now there's more and more companies coming in, Experian Verify, just in particular, they're quite a bit less expensive than the work number. Granted, they don't have that, the whole, I guess, database that the work number has, but they're getting there. They, when we first set up our Cascade VOE, which I think we've talked on the TMC quite a bit about in the past, 1 button, Cascade, no hit, no charge, go to the next vendor. I think Experian Verify was around 8% when it rolled out. Now with, the different databases they've bought and overlaps that they have with the work number, they're up close to 20%. So, just kind of using that to your advantage of hitting the less expensive options first before you get to that company that seems to increase their fees tremendously every year on not only people going direct, but their resellers as well. Then you're looking at consumer permission, Finicities, the Plaids, TrueV. There's a lot of other companies coming in the space as well, because you are relying on the borrower to play ball and authorize that and enter their bank account info or their pay stub provider info, but those are a fraction of the cost. So there are ways around it. There is just what works best for the company and their workflow there.
And Paul, I don't know if you're aware, but we do have a client that the Cascade has always been Verify work number manual. We do have a live client on the Finicity side of things. So
yeah,
that it's good news. We're trying to drive that cost down as much as possible and take care of it without you having to hit the work number.
Jeff, how much use are they getting out of Finicity so far? How deep into that are they?
It's just rolling out, Michael. So it's hard for me to give you any exact numbers, but give me a month and I'll see how many pulls and hits and how that's going, and I'll loop you in. Okay.
I would love to hear that.
But maybe hopefully by the time I'll have some numbers for you by the time we get to San Diego.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think you all hit on a very interesting point there, and that's every lender is going to have a different workflow. So what are these strategies that you guys are taking with the lenders to make sure that these processes are adhering to what their business needs to grow and succeed?
It's a conversation, that's one thing I think, Mets and I can always brag about. He reaches out to me, I reach out to him, we bounce things off each other. You got to have that open line of communication with your customer. You got to be more than just the company they send a check to at the end of the month because of you gave them credit reports. You got to understand how their inner workings go, whether it's net branch operations, hierarchies, but ultimately find out when they're ordering products in their workflow. That's, we always talk about the consultative sale there. We do that tremendously well at Certified. But, if I see somebody on a step up bundle and they're ordering it, the UDM that they order as soon as they run AUS, maybe that's not the best place for that step up to be if they have a lot of fallout from that initial UDM or that trigger product. It's looking out for your customer in the end. But you're not going to know it if you don't understand how they work and what their process is. So it's being a partner, and I think, Mike could probably attest to that. We work really well, and we try to get back to you as soon as possible.
Paul knows his stuff. The people at Certified know their stuff. They're quick to respond. They are very good for, okay, here's this 1 in a million situation. I have no idea how this even exists. Have you seen this? Oh yeah, we get 2 of those a month. So and it helps that Paul's been doing this for a day or two. So he seems to remember everything.
I don't know how.
So we're nearing the last 8 or so minutes of our conversation. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. But guys, I wanted to ask you, we've talked a little bit about VOE, we've talked a little bit about credit. How are other TMC members implementing these solutions? So some of our current customers, some that you've talked to, and how can they start automating some of these processes to help deliver those cost savings and streamline processes?
Jody did mention in the chat that Fannie Mae has seen some pretty impressive stats on the one pull and then AUS not being changes in eligibility, at least from my perspective, and especially right now in this market. To me, the number one for anyone listening would be get going on the soft pulls. And if you aren't set up to do the AUS on the soft pulls, get going on those. Before the call, we had a conversation and someone shared that she reached out to 4 different mortgage companies and 3 of them told them they could not do a soft pull for a pre-qual. So, I mean, right there, you're getting ahead of 75% of your competition and being able to offer that capability, but you're also cutting your costs 75% in doing so. So to me, if you're able to pull ahead and having an advantage while saving costs at no risk in your manufacturing, to me, that seems like the gimme. And it's a very low barrier for entry. It's a 30-minute phone call with LP. I don't know how long Paul has. He probably has a time that can tell us it's 28 minutes and 11 seconds to do the call with Paul and getting set up on the soft pull, but it's easy and saves money and gets business. So it's like the trifecta.
Great. Well, and I don't think it's any secret that borrowers are really gun shy, I guess, to get inquiries. Other than the person that told us at the beginning of this call, I probably hear it 5 times a day. Do you guys offer soft pulls? This borrower won't let me pull their credit. Well, sure, we've been pushing it out for years there, and then I take personal responsibility for not making sure that this particular LO knew we had soft pulls, on that. So you're missing out on business if you don't have the full suite of soft pull, hard pulls, and on top of what Mike had to say on getting the AUS with it as well. It's a win-win-win there. So even if you're not utilizing it, it's probably best practice to at least get your company set up with soft pulls and have that there when should you need to use it.
Yeah.
One other thing that I suggest, if you haven't done it in a while, is take a look at your credit cascades. And this is something Certified also does when pulling credit. Especially if you're like us, you probably haven't touched it for years and years. And especially like during the crazy refi days, we set our cascades to be pretty aggressive. Nope, screw it, just pull the full tri-merge basically every time. Now, maybe you want to be a bit more cautious about that. And that's where Paul can help with, okay, let's set it up to where if they have FICO below X and or this derogatory item within this period, just go ahead and do one bureau to start and then cascade from there. Again, it's probably not a setting you think about every day. Now is probably a good time to go through and change it up a little bit.
That is such a good point, Michael. I've had calls with a couple of clients in the past month or so discussing exactly that, because they had those thresholds, those filters kind of wide open. They really weren't filtering much, if at all, maybe a very, very low FICO score. But yeah, now in a time where we are looking to cost save as much as possible, that's a great suggestion. So easy to do too, because there's so many different parameters that you can plug in there on that cascade, on that waterfall. So great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, even for the companies that maybe aren't pulling a one bureau like VIP and a couple other of my lenders, we can actually cascade your soft pulls as well. So save you money there if you really want to pull the 3 bureaus, and give you the option to order simulators and wayfinders them as well. So I mean, there's a lot you can do with soft pulls out there.
I think that's all really great advice, gentlemen. I know that we are nearing the end of our time, so if you have any additional questions, feel free to drop those into the chat. One thing I did want to ask you guys, we're talking about, having these people come to do the pre-qualification, but something that we haven't necessarily hit on is how to get those leads. So that's all part of the process as well. So how are you recommending, or how are you seeing others overcome the challenge of getting leads in the door?
Well, I know we have the option of retention leads for our customers. Again, we'll say it. I think I said it initially, we do not sell trigger leads and will not ever sell trigger leads, but retention leads, I mean, they're a must. You need to know when your customers are shopping out there. I know it's probably weren't as prevalent probably the last 8 months, because we weren't seeing a whole lot of portfolio runoff with it. But they've worked with you in the past. You have an insight that they are mortgage shopping. They didn't come back to you. Maybe they were working with an LO that's no longer with the company. But you want to have an idea when somebody from your portfolio is back in the market. And so not only can you get those retention leads that are triggering off the inquiry from the credit pull, but ALS or MLS triggers are really getting hot for us right now as well, with our Cascade suite of solutions for alerts. And that's, be notified when somebody's house goes on the market, because ultimately there's a good chance they're going to be buying another one and need a loan. So those are some of the solutions we offer at Certified.
Paul, I'll add to that. I even go so far, anybody that's using us for credit, I kind of stress that our monitoring alert service, the Cascade alerts, is really a no-brainer to protect your portfolio and for that client retention. It is so low cost. And what I had a call not that long ago with one of my customers that are utilizing it. One thing we don't even look at is what a huge benefit it is for EPOs. Saved them like 20 grand in 1 month in just simply early payoff demands. So those are some solutions as well. If you're looking to, why have, that past borrower of yours go somewhere else when you can simply be notified that, boom, they're shopping. Why don't you retain them? So,
well, you can implement it on your current pipeline as well to make sure they're not shopping.
It doesn't even have to be, it doesn't have to be a past borrower. That's correct. Yeah.
Paul brought up an interesting point, and it's one for us, on our side. We don't want bad blood. So when someone leaves the company, we're not trying to steal all their customers back. It's business. It's a small industry. But one thing that has been kind of an awakening for us is with those credit trigger leads, a lot of people who've left the company, and you may have this as well, a lot of them have left the industry, or if they're at a small little broker shop, they're not getting those credit trigger leads anymore. And those clients are not being helped. And especially for the average person who may not remember the loan officer, they're probably not having that trigger lead from that same loan officer again. They don't remember them, and that new other person is not getting that. So like, that's where we have had success in tracking some of those past loan officers, especially who have left the industry or gone towards smaller broker shops, and being able to help those clients.
Great point. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, well, we are nearing the end, so I want to thank you all so much, and I am going to pass it back to Tony.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much. Amazing information that you guys are sharing. And, you know, in this day and age, in this market that we're in, everybody's looking to save money, and you guys have given a plethora of ideas right here on how to do that. So thank you so very much to those on the phone, on the line. Thank you so much for being here. As a reminder, we will have a follow-up email that goes out tomorrow with a link to the video for this session. Thank you again, everybody. Mike, Jeff, Paul, Allie, really, really appreciate your time. And to everyone on the line, thank you for coming to TMC Connect. Come back anytime. Thanks so much.
See you in San
Have a great day.
Everybody.
See you in San Francisco. Bye.